It was last week when I got the job at this new spa in town, and I'm already thinking of quitting. It opened up recently, and they had this huge banner outside their front lobby, practically begging for fresh faces. My boyfriend, William, had a gut feeling about the place, and he told me not to go. He said it seemed weird, and that led to a big argument. God, I wish I had listened to him. I still can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. When I first arrived, I noticed the place had no windows. That was a huge red flag, and William noticed it too. I remember him mentioning it before I left. No windows? That's a huge red flag, he'd said. He was so right. But at the time, I was eager to start and brushed off his concerns. It was a Monday, and there were 3 other women with me, all fresh-faced and recently graduated. We gathered in the lobby, waiting for the orientation to begin. The place was pristine, cleaner than any 5-star hotel I'd ever seen. The air smelled like lavender and eucalyptus, and I tried to tell myself that maybe this was just how spas were supposed to feel. Our supervisor, a woman in her late 30s, greeted us with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She gave us a quick rundown, explaining that we'd be changing into uniforms right away. All of your belongings will be taken while you're on the clock. This is to ensure that you focus entirely on our clients and provide them the best service possible, she said, her voice smooth, almost robotic. At first, I didn't mind. I'd worked jobs where they asked you to leave your things in lockers or at the front desk. I thought nothing of it, shrugged, and followed the others as we changed. The spa was gorgeous. There were stone therapy rooms, pristine saunas, and perfectly arranged relaxation spaces. But as I walked through, I noticed something odd. Strange symbols painted on the walls. They weren't obvious at first, just faint patterns etched into the stone. As we passed each room, I couldn't help but ask, "What are these symbols for?" "Just part of our philosophy," our supervisor explained. "We believe we can make people better here. Heal them," she added with a vague, almost hollow smile. "Make them better?" I murmured under my breath, but I didn't question her further. I was still too new, too eager to impress. We were led into a room to watch a short video that, in hindsight, should have raised more alarms than it did. The video started with an eerie voiceover, smooth but unnerving. "Welcome, Namaste," the voice said. "We hope that your journey here with us is a long one. And the first step is accepting that your soul is not yours to have. You are a servant here, a vessel meant for new life to begin." I blinked in confusion. What kind of spa was this? "You are here to serve our clients. Their lives can be healed through yours," the voice continued. "You will be a new fire in their life, bringing them the healing they need." The message was clear, but the tone was disturbing. At first, I thought it was just a quirky introduction, some sort of spiritual angle. But as the video played on, the words felt wrong, like they were trying to manipulate us. "Only your body can heal theirs," the voice finished ominously. "Let us begin and awaken what we are meant to be." After the video, we were handed our staff badges, and the supervisor told us we could use the facilities at our leisure, as long as there weren't clients around. That sounded like a nice perk, and I allowed myself to relax for a moment. Everything seemed perfect. Tuesday came and went, and by Wednesday, I had settled into a comfortable routine. The clients were easy to work with, and the supervisor seemed genuinely kind, always checking on us, making sure we ate, and encouraging us to use the sauna during our breaks. The days blurred together, and I was starting to feel like I belonged. But something odd was happening. By the end of the week, some of the other women who had started with me were gone. I tried not to think too much about it, but it made me uneasy. Why would they leave? It was such a cozy, easy job, right? That Monday, my supervisor asked, "Are you finding yourself healing here?" I nodded, trying to be agreeable. "Yeah, I'm enjoying every aspect of it." "Well," she continued, "you're doing wonderfully. You're fitting right in." It was around that time that the spa began offering us more perks, nutritious meals designed for healthier living, more opportunities to relax, and even more time to use the facilities. I felt like I was getting special treatment, but I didn't question it. I was flattered and just assumed that the spa was genuinely trying to create a positive work environment. But the nice facade didn't last long. The next morning, I overslept and missed my first client. When I arrived late, I was called into the supervisor's office. "This is a very important part of your job," she said, her voice stern. "Our clients need you here. If you can't accept that we belong to them, then maybe this isn't the right place for you." I froze. What did she mean? We belong to them. I felt a chill in my spine, but I didn't dare argue. It was my fault for being late. Later, as I ate lunch, one of my coworkers asked if I wanted to join her for a smoke break. I don't smoke, but something about her insistence made me uneasy. "If you know what's good for you," she said under her breath, "you'll follow me." Surprised by the strange warning, I followed her outside. Once we were far enough away from the spa, she finally spoke. "I've been watching you," she said, glancing around nervously. "You need to leave. You're next on the list." "Next for what?" I asked, confusion written all over my face. She pulled out her phone, showing me photos of clients entering the facility and then leaving. At first, nothing seemed off. But then I looked closer, and my stomach dropped. The people who entered the spa were completely different from the ones leaving. Their appearances had radically changed. "Are you sure these are the same people?" I asked, my voice shaking. "I'm certain. I've been watching this place for months. They're using employees to change the clients. I'm an undercover investigator, and I've seen 7 women disappear since you started," she said, her voice grave. My heart raced. This sounded insane, but I knew it wasn't a coincidence. "Go see for yourself," she urged me. "Use this." She handed me a silver badge, different from the one I'd been given. "This should give you access to the back offices. That's where the other staff members disappear." I hesitated. "Why can't you do it?" "They know me now," she said quietly. "This is my last day. If we don't get proof today, I won't be able to stop it." Something inside me told me to leave, to run far away from this place. But my curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to check it out. After my shift, I told my supervisor I needed to stay late to finish some paperwork. Using the new badge, I entered the back corridors of the building. The long, shiny hallways were eerily silent. Strange symbols adorned the walls, and I followed the corridor with my breath held, expecting something terrible to happen. When I reached the next room, I found surgical uniforms hanging neatly on racks. My heart pounded as I quickly changed into one of the uniforms and donned a face mask. I moved cautiously through the halls, keeping my head low. Then I found it. Rows of hospital beds, some occupied with unconscious people. I almost turned and ran, but I couldn't. I had to see this through. I followed a group of nurses into a surgical theater. The air was thick with antiseptic, and the room smelled sterile, too clean. The sight before me made my blood run cold. They were performing surgery on the client's plastic surgery at first, but then it got worse. They were removing organs from one woman, and I watched in horror as they began to replace them with parts from the employee lying on the table next to her. I had to get out of there. My hands shook as I excused myself to the restroom, and once I was inside, I vomited uncontrollably. I left the building as quietly as possible, knowing that I had enough evidence for the investigator. But when I returned the next day, she was gone. I asked the supervisor about her, but she just smiled, almost knowingly. "I'm afraid she couldn't continue with our vision," she said. "We had to fill her position with a more willing servant." "You're willing, aren't you?" I lied and said I was. But inside, I knew I couldn't go back. I called in sick the next day. If I go back, I'm afraid I won't be able to leave. I don't know if anyone will believe me, but I can't ignore the truth any longer. This spa, it's a trap, and I think they're watching me now. God help me, I won't go back. It was a sunny afternoon when Mel and I walked through the doors of the spa. The air smelled faintly of lavender and eucalyptus, and the soft clink of wind chimes greeted us as we approached the front desk. The receptionist smiled warmly and handed us a welcome packet with all the necessary details for our day. "We're so happy to have you here today," she said cheerfully. "Please fill out this form, and then you can relax while we prepare everything for your treatment." Mel and I exchanged excited glances as we began filling out the forms. I could already feel my stress beginning to melt away, imagining myself sinking into a luxurious massage or maybe even lounging in the sauna. My fingers hovered over the paper as I read through the list of treatments, each one more appealing than the last. After a few minutes, I finished the form, and the receptionist took it with a smile. "Please follow the guide," she said, pointing to a hallway. "Your first stop is the relaxation room. Your therapists will be waiting there shortly." Mel and I grabbed our bags and walked down the quiet hallway, our footsteps echoing softly against the polished marble floors. At the end of the hall, two women dressed in scarlet kimonos greeted us. They were both petite, with dark hair pulled back in neat buns. Their eyes were kind, but there was a subtle air of professionalism to them that made me feel both reassured and a little uneasy. "Follow us, please," one of the women said. We nodded and followed them to the first treatment room, where they instructed us to put our belongings into a locker and change into robes. A few minutes later, we were both in soft, plush robes, ready for the experience to begin. "Now this is more like it," Mel exclaimed, laughing as she threw her robe on and started heading toward the massage tables. "Can't wait for that massage." I smiled, feeling the excitement bubble up inside me. I couldn't remember the last time I had felt this relaxed. I sent a quick text to my boyfriend, telling him we had made it. But as I hit send, an employee approached and gently held out her hand. "Sorry, ma'am," she said. "We don't allow phones here. For privacy." I was taken aback but quickly apologized, deleting the photo from my phone. The employee didn't seem upset, but it struck me as odd. The entire place was so serene and peaceful, yet something about their insistence on privacy felt a bit off. Once inside the room, Mel and I lay down on the massage tables, each of us settling in for what we expected would be the ultimate relaxation experience. The room was quiet, only the soft hum of distant music breaking the stillness. My mind began to wander, and before I knew it, I was nearly asleep. That's when I heard a faint noise like a soft creaking. I opened my eyes just slightly and saw two women enter the room. They wore the same scarlet kimonos as the guides had, but these two were wearing face masks. Their movements were fluid and deliberate, almost too perfect. "Lay back and relax," one of them instructed softly. Her voice was soothing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As I turned my head to the side, I noticed something strange. There were cameras in the corners of the room watching us. My stomach tightened. I wasn't sure why it bothered me, but the idea of someone, anyone, watching me while I was in such a vulnerable state made me uncomfortable. "What are those cameras for?" I asked, my voice a little more shaky than I intended. "They're for your privacy, ma'am," one of the therapists responded. "And for our own legal protection." I wasn't reassured. In fact, the more I thought about it, the more unsettled I became. I kept my eyes closed, trying to focus on the soothing hands working on my back. But all I could think about were those cameras. Who was watching? Why did it feel so invasive? "You're fine," Mel whispered from the next table, as though reading my mind. "It's just for privacy." I nodded, but my anxiety didn't fade. I kept trying to tell myself I was just overthinking it. After all, it was just a spa, right? It wasn't like they were doing anything wrong. But something in the air felt wrong, like there was a shadow lurking in the corners, just out of sight. Once the massage ended, we were guided to the next stage of our treatment, the sauna. The two therapists who had given us the massage spoke in hushed voices, exchanging some private words before they told us to go to separate rooms. I gave Mel a quick look, trying to gauge her reaction, but she just grinned. "Guess I'll see you on the other side," she said with a wink. I didn't press the issue. After all, we were here to relax. I took a deep breath and followed the therapist to the sauna. The heat was intense but comforting, and I let the warmth wash over me. For the first time all day, I felt truly at peace. I closed my eyes, letting the heat sink deep into my muscles. I must have fallen asleep, because when I woke, there was a woman standing beside me, gently informing me that it was time to move on to the next step, the mani-pedi. "Mel's already gone ahead, I guess," I said, my voice groggy with sleep. The woman looked confused. "Your friend, ma'am? She's not in the sauna?" "No, she's in the other room," I said, pointing toward the door. "She's probably finished before me." The woman didn't respond, but she seemed a little off-put by my confusion. She simply led me to the next room, where I sat down in one of the chairs. The technician began working on my feet, but I couldn't stop glancing over at the door, wondering when Mel would show up. Minutes passed, and still, she didn't appear. When I was finished, I asked the technician, "Is my friend finished yet?" Her response caught me completely off guard. "You came alone, ma'am?" I froze. "No, I came with my friend Mel. She was with me when we checked in." The woman simply shook her head. "I'm afraid our records show no one else registered with you. You came alone." My heart dropped. I felt a strange shiver of panic run through me, but I tried to stay calm. "No," I insisted, my voice growing more desperate. "She was here. She was with me the whole time." The woman simply stared at me, unmoving. I pointed to the locker room. "Her stuff is still there. You have to check the security footage or something," I pleaded. "I'm sorry, ma'am. There's no need for an investigation. You've been here alone," she said coldly. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as the reality of the situation hit me. Something was horribly wrong. Mel wasn't here, and no one seemed to know where she had gone. I stormed out of the treatment room, heart pounding in my chest. I rushed to the front desk, but there was no sign of her. I tried calling her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. My anxiety spiked, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. That's when I decided to call my boyfriend. He listened to my frantic explanation, his voice growing serious. Call the cops. If they have security footage, they can pull it. I didn't hesitate. I dialed the authorities, and they arrived within minutes. After taking my statement, they escorted me back to the spa. The older woman at the desk tried to act calm, but I could see the unease in her eyes as she reluctantly led us to the security room. The footage was grainy, almost impossible to make out. But there was only one person in the massage room. Me. No sign of Mel. I felt my blood run cold. The footage didn't match the reality I'd just experienced. Are you sure this footage hasn't been altered? I demanded. The officer just shook his head. There's no sign of any tampering, and nothing suggests your friend was ever here. My frustration reached a breaking point, and I started to turn toward the exit when something caught my eye. There was a map of the facility posted on the wall, and it showed a hidden area I hadn't noticed before. Without thinking, I excused myself to use the restroom, then made my way toward the restricted section of the building. I swiped an employee's badge and snuck past security, my heart racing as I slipped through a door I was never supposed to see. On the other side, I found a chilling sight. A group of women, chained together, their faces pale and terrified. I saw Mel among them. Panicking, I made a plan. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't leave without her. I ran to the truck, hot on the heels of the people responsible for this. They were too distracted to stop me. Once inside the truck, I slammed on the gas, heading toward the police. When they stopped me, I collapsed, exhausted and terrified. But it was enough. I had saved them. The spa was shut down, but who knows how many others had come before and never returned. As I told my boyfriend later that night, I couldn't help but laugh nervously. Next time, just send me to the nail salon.